Listen. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. No, that's not adequate. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not adequate. Good afternoon, sisters and brothers. Good afternoon. But that also is not adequate. Good afternoon, fellow Gambians. That is adequate. Welcome to this event. But before we start, let us pray our individual ways. Thank you very much and welcome once more to this very important event. Go to the people, live among them, work with them, and learn from them to better serve them. That has been the cardinal stance of this party. But more than 10 years of efforts at coalition building in view of putting an end to autocratic rule debilitated that practice. But now we are away from that. And the party wants to reactivate what it was doing before. Like I said, go to the people, live among them, work with them and learn from them to better serve them. This event is meant to be an interface with the Gambian public, to create a forum of dialogue with people with a view to clarify sometimes uninformed information in circulation in the country, creating confusion where there is supposed to be no confusion. This event is a forum for dialogue with Gambian people. It is not only here that you are going to hear people talk, but we want to hear you talk. We want to hear the Gambian people talk, to enable us understand what is necessary to be done in order for us to move forward to the great day. But because that day has still not come, the liberation of this country. I don't want to waste much time because, as I said, it is a forum for the Gambian people, forum for Gambian people to express themselves, and also a forum for us to react to what Gambian people are going to say about certain matters. A forum of information, a forum of promoting clarity in politics in the Gambia. So there will be room for questioning and expression of views about any matter of concern to anybody in this country. And then we'll see what we can do about what is going to be said. I will let the Secretary General say certain things, and then the floor will be open for that activity. Thank you very much.
commence with the remembrance of those who were with us, are still with us, speaking to us with the voices of silence. They served this country, and at the end of this program, we'll name all of them we can remember, so that we'll take note of their service to their country and their people. The country is at a crossroads. Which way forward? That is the question. Pdois is at a crossroads. Which way forward? That is the question. And that is why the Central Committee decided to organize this historic dialogue with the people in order to search together the way forward. The party you call Pdois emerged for a purpose. The Gambia is a sovereign republic. As a sovereign republic, the republic is the depository of the sovereign will of a people. The people own the republic. And that is why there are three fundamental laws of political science that have guided this party since it came into being. Number one, the authority to govern must be derived from the will and consent of the people. That law is irrefutable, incontrovertible. The authority, when derived from the people, must be exercised to provide public services of adequate quantity and quality to ensure the well-being of the people. That's golden rule number two, incontrovertible. Number three, that authority must be exercised to harness sovereign national wealth from our land, airspace, and waters to provide the necessary services for the people. These three laws govern the existence of a sovereign republic. No party in a republic, no government in a republic can exist without respecting and upholding these three fundamental laws. Yet you hear people say socialism and democracy are at loggerheads. That Pdois is not a democratic party. What is democracy? The sovereign will of the people expressed to determine how we are going. That's what we are committed to. Therefore, all the young people of this land must no longer allow anyone to deceive you, to mislead you, to believe that socialism and democracy are at loggerheads. No matter what you call yourself, conservative, liberal, whatever. As long as you are in a republic, those fundamental laws must be observed and respected. When Pdois came into being, it came into being for a purpose. In 1985, the President of this republic reminded the nation what he said in 1984. We don't have enough time, but you will see the books we are writing will contain all this to show that the nation was in a state of crisis. It could no longer pay its external debts. It could no longer earn enough foreign exchange to be able to import goods. That consequently there was scarcity of goods, and the nation could not go on without a reform program because of two fundamental deficiencies. We were earning less from exports to be able to pay for imports. We were earning less revenue to be able to meet expenditure. It was a nation at the verge of bankruptcy. And we have the evidence. That's why we produce this book, The State of the Gambian and International Economies, in 1992. How many of you have read this? Don't we need to reproduce it for a younger generation who have not been well briefed of what Pdois has done to be able to raise the consciousness of the Gambian people? All the evidence is here that the PPP regime in 1985 had lost all capacity, has shown it demonstrated incapacity to provide a well-being for the well-being of the Gambian people. It is in evidence. And consequently, they established an economic recovery program where the old PWD became completely defunct. Those people who came to our roads to mend them were all set aside. Retrenchment at that level, retrenchment at the GPMB in all areas of work, and poverty increased. Not only that, they sold all the sources of sovereign national wealth. The National Trading Corporation, GPMB, all the institutions, fisheries institutions, all were sold. And the nation no longer had sources of sovereign national wealth. That is the reality. And Pdois came into being to tell the nation why there was poverty, why there was ignorance, why there was injustice, and what ought to be done to eradicate those three evils. You have a government today. It is experiencing the same problem. In 2020, it was only able to export $1 billion worth of goods and imported $25 billion worth of goods and had a deficit of $24 billion. And this year in, year out, that is the problem. And the government that was here, Second Republic, $11.7 billion that it had in deficit in 2016 before it left. So it is very clear that this country has never had a government that built up the productive base of the economy so that we can export enough to be able to pay for our incomes. And this government very recently has also indicated that it is not earning enough revenue to be able to meet expenditure. That's why you had the revised budget. And can you believe in that revised budget, they were able to decrease the revenue for higher education by $23 million. You want to build a country, and knowledge is the basis of building a country. Now the institution that should build the minds to build a country, in revising your budget, you could lower its revenue. Can you imagine what type of mind then is guiding a nation? No nation on earth has ever developed without putting knowledge at the forefront. It must build thinkers. It must build inventors. It must build builders. That's how you build a nation. But you look at the land, and some people talk about socialism and ownership of the means of production. Do you know that all land in Combo, St. Mary, and Banjul is vested in the hands of the state? Who is a bigger property owner than the state? And what is it doing with that property? Dishing it out. If you have a council, and the council is grassroots development, the states and the councils must work hand in hand for development to be able to take place. Look at your regions and look at your cities and municipalities. Where is the development? How many years of independence? The first act of a government and council is to ensure that you have cadastral mapping of all areas under your jurisdiction. You're able to know where the buildings are, the houses are, and you stand very much a chance of being able to plan better, even if there was misplanning in the past. You must know what you inherit. How do you allocate land? What land should be there for hospitals, for schools, for industries, for commercial centers, for roads? All the infrastructure must be well planned. What is to be used for agriculture? All that ought to be planned. And when planned, put on paper, that must be respected and implemented and protected. That has not taken place yesterday. It is not taking place now. Do I emphasize that this government, the Second Republic, the First Republic, had an opportunity to develop our agriculture, develop our industrial base, and develop our services. They had the opportunity to build up the resource base from the productive base of the economy to be able to provide health, education, social welfare, housing, and other services. But we have emphasized that all these three governments had been engaged in trial and error form of administration. They've never been guided by profound ideas of how society is governed and managed. And we're ready for a debate on that. Not wrangling, not insults, but a debate on issues and policies. Let's look at agriculture. Over 5 billion had been invested in the Second Republic on the First Step, DCAV, and the other projects. But today still, we produce only 57,000 tons or less of rice, when we need over 200,000 tons. Second Republic projected that in 2016, that would be the end of importation of rice. It was just chaff in the wind. Because nothing concrete was there to facilitate that development. The farmers need seeds, they need fertilizer, they need farming implements. They are earning very little to be able to sustain their seed stock, improve their farming implements, and ensure that they have fertilizer when their soil is no longer fertile. But government says that it cannot come to their aid. They have to do it alone. And that is their difference with doing. We are saying that there is consumption-based welfare and production-based welfare. All countries in the world have governments that have to address the needs of their population. Social welfare programs developed in Europe when poverty increased. Wealth became the property of a few. The majority could not go to school, could not have hospitals, they did not have roads and other facilities. They formed unions, they protested. Society was in a state of upheaval, and therefore government had to come to address that. Eventually, you had people with sound ideas that the role of government is not to make the rich richer, but to ensure that there is distribution of wealth in a manner where production will continue without undermining the prosperity of society. They saw the need to ensure that the corporations carry out their corporate responsibilities through taxation and payment of all sorts of dues in order to facilitate social welfare programs. That's how social democracy came into Sweden and all these other countries, where those who own the industries, own the means of production, will be required to pay the type of taxes that will ensure that education will be free, health will be free, and other services will be free for others who cannot afford it. That's what had to be done. And our people now live here to go to those societies, and then you have children being taken care of, mothers being taken care of, all sorts of social programs, and they will benefit from those programs, send money back home, and you benefit from it. We are saying that we should build a system that will make that possible, and you are not listening to us. You have $403 million, the minister said, in 2021, came into the country as remittances. What are they doing that we cannot do? We said we'll become independent. We will have self-reliance and self-determined development. Let's look at the practicalities. This government could say there is COVID-19 poverty and suffering. So therefore, it can have a package of rice, oil, and sugar to give it to the poor so that they become beggars. But that same government cannot think of having a cooperative bank with the same type of funds injected in that bank to give it to a farmer to be able to purchase the $2,000 worth of fertilizer, enough bags, not for charity, but to be able to produce, sell, and pay back the same amount without interest. You are giving sugar, rice, and oil, free of charge. But you cannot give loan to be paid back without interest, so the production will increase. That's what you call production-based welfare. Consumption-based welfare is precisely what they have done: buy the rice, sugar, and give it to somebody to consume. That's the social welfare system also in Europe, but it is based on production. The productive base, you take from it the taxation, and then you can provide consumption-based welfare. So essentially, it must become clear that the system that can save us is production-based welfare, because we are not earning enough to be able to distribute to families, to young people who are not unemployed. In other countries, you have unemployment benefits. We cannot have that in this country, because we do not have enough industries that will pay the taxes to be able to provide the funds to do that. It's not possible. So Pdois is saying that we should have production-based welfare. Don't give charity. Let be a loan, but loan without interest. So that everybody who wants to be productive at the farming level or small-scale production, small-scale enterprises will be able to access the fund and continue to produce. What are they going to produce? What we need to consume. You do not need to have mighty industries to be able to produce milk, to be able to produce butter, to be able to produce cheese, to be able to produce yogurt. You don't need mighty industries. You can have production-based welfare, where the community that wants to have the cows, limited, that will be able to produce this quantity of milk, will be able to gain access to funds to get the cows to be able to produce the milk and pay back without interest. The other person who wants to take that and buy it, in order to turn it into yogurt, will be able to do that. Will get the funds, but will not have to pay interest. Eventually, you will create a production and consumption chain from the raw material producer to the person processing and the person consuming. And the nation will be able to feed itself, and people will be employed. That is what Pdois is saying. It has said it for 3 decades. But you hear people who call themselves intellectuals say, they are speaking above the minds of the people. This is not possible. But they'll see a government take oil, take rice, take sugar, costing millions and millions, almost billion, and distribute it. That is possible. But channeling it into the productive base is not possible. What type of mind will conceive reality in that way? And that is the drawback of the party. Those who claim to be thinkers will not interrogate what we are saying, but they will just simply, they're trying to follow China. They're trying to follow, that system no longer works in the world. But it is working in Europe. sovereign national wealth is well helped Kuwait to be Kuwait today. What helped Singapore to be Singapore today? What helped Norway to be Norway today? But they do not bother to do research. You have a university. You want to shape the minds of children. You do not put them in the field to find out what is happening elsewhere. Make comparative analysis and come up with ideas. No, just abstract knowledge, abstract knowledge. I was talking to a child cutting branches of trees at this time. And I asked the child, do you know the implication? How will you reap fruit in the next season if you cut all those branches? Have you done biology? No. I am doing arts. That is your school system. What is basic education? Is it not to help the person to understand nature and society and have basic knowledge that is usable? But that's how your educational system is rooted. Abstract learning, no practical application. We compete to show who is the genius, the person who passes exams and get better results. So essentially, that is the problem. We are saying that if we want to address the economy, agriculture must be tied to processing. That will be able to generate what we need to survive on. Produce enough rice. We're still importing it. Cereals. We're still importing cereals. We produce corn. We import $2 billion worth of cereals. We produce onion. We can produce in abundance. We imported $108 million worth of onions in 2020. So essentially, we are importing potatoes, we are importing all these things that we are consuming when we can produce them. Yes, they will say we can produce them, but without the sovereign wealth, providing the cooperative with the fund to give it to the producer, that will not be possible. That's what Pdois is saying. Now, just imagine, we have a company called National Security, Food Security Processing Company, Processing and Marketing Company. What did you hear recently? They are going to compete with the people marketing food products. They say they're going to import oil so that they can sell for less. And they are the same economists who will tell you that there is import-generated inflation. It's the same people who will tell you that the reason why fertilizer is 2,000 is because of Ukraine. But it's the same people who will go and think that they can go and import oil and still ultimately they will lower the price of oil. What type of logic? Are we really thinking? That's not policy making. Policy making is based on facts. You must investigate, gather your information, sieve it, in order to be able to make a logical deduction of what is possible and what is not possible. Don't promise what you cannot deliver. When you import, you cannot control ultimately what the price would be. Yet you are a producer of groundnuts, a producer of groundnut oil. You will export the groundnut as bird feed, and you also export the crude oil so that somebody else will refine it and come and sell it to you. That company existed since the colonial days, sold in 1990 to 1993 by the First Republic because it collapsed. Taken back by force, Second Republic, without really thinking, and we had to pay almost $11 million after being taken to arbitration. Eventually, what become of the company? You show power. But how do you exercise that power to ensure production that is sustainable and that will bring about economic development? The two are different. It's not power for its sake. It's power that builds. So you look at that company now, importing oil. If we were to go there today, you'll find out that all the equipments are archaic. They are producing crude oil, but not on a sustainable basis. Even bringing the nuts, the barges, are inadequate. You're not thinking of repairs, rebuilding, transformation into more first-class production of material for production. No, you think of importing oil instead of producing the oil, even if it is 2 years, 3 years ahead. This is what we are talking about. That Pdois is saying that institution could have been transformed. First and foremost, ensure that it invests in the development of equipment and the building of human resource so that it will be able to produce refined oil for the country. Not only from that, but many other things could be processed as we move. It could be a base. Look at rice, sapo. We know what was happening in Kaur, what was happening in Kuntawur. All the blueprints are there. But where are they now? Who built them up? No one. We could have processed our rice, produced our rice, and distribute our rice, and even sell it. That's what we are talking about. So we'll be coming back to you with our economic policy. This is just to touch on certain things to allow room for dialogue. But we hope you are seeing that Pdois has focus. We can build agriculture. We can build industry. Not only industrial base with high-level technology, but also appropriate technology where we can ensure that there is small-scale production that serves our people. For example, you have many people who are producing eggs, who can produce yogurt, etc. And with this, you can have a chain where those who produce more than they need can actually sell it there, and that chain can collect and eventually sell in the international market. All that is innovation. We have the capacity to do all that. But you must have innovative leaders, innovative thinkers to manage the affairs of the country. Services. Look at Ports Authority and its capacity. With proper investment there, you can imagine that it can be a hub. Mali is landlocked. Second Republic, rather than having a system, this problem is transparent and accountable system. You find many tankers taking fuel to Mali. Who owned them? What was the process? What is government? Nobody knows. So you have an economy within an economy. And we have revealed that. Because if you look at the trade at the banks, the sale and buying of foreign exchange, it goes up to $1.5 billion annually. Where is the productive base? All that is the economy, what you call underground economy, that no one sees. But it is not shrinking down to benefit the Gambian population. So it is important to see that we can properly organize the banks, help them to feed into those who want to engage in large-scale production, and ensure the development of the productive base in order to ensure economic development for the country. We can create possibilities of joint stock enterprises between Gambians who have foreign markets but do not have the capacity. And we can have at the central bank a financial facility that will be able to support them on a share basis with the state. And as a result, it can propel Gambia's economic development. In short, we cannot improve education. In fact, it will be retarded, just as we have seen with the review of the budget, revising of the budget, that higher education lost 23 million when it was already owing a lot. I remember in our last budget session, the minister was struggling to get the support of the National Assembly members so that we can lift funds from certain allocation and put it into higher education. So in essence, we cannot develop education, we cannot develop health, we cannot develop housing without the development of the productive base. Chair, I will deal with just certain current issues, and if you wish, we'll open up the debate, because this is just a starting point. We are coming. Our manifesto is not a one-page manifesto, and we'll be organizing seminars and fora like this to take each issue. It has 7 fundamental issues. It is not only dealing with the economics, but also the civil, political, cultural, social, ecological, and international positions of the party on all fundamental issues. But I will streamline the presentation to emphasize that knowledge is what leads society. Example, we are all told that, and the count is going, I don't even want to make the count, how many children perish. They told us that they perish because of consumption of a syrup of some sort. That's what they told the nation. Eventually, the same people are telling you, we don't know what may have led to the death. It could also be some form of bacteria. A hospital, we should have a pathologist, and it does have a lab. Somebody dies under suspicious circumstances. You do not take that baby, the baby that died. You see, human beings are single. You cannot put them into a category. Each person is sovereign and is a sovereign entity. every child is a person. You are a person. And you value your person. Why don't you value the person of another? It's a child who had a right to life, to protection, to development. And the Children's Act emphasizes that we should protect the life of that child. And we should ensure the development of every child. That's why every child has a name. So the most important ministry that deals with children cannot even be seen in the whole process of this whole exercise. Visiting the parents, finding out the realities, giving them support. That's what social protection is all about. And then taking note of the findings of the experts on the cause of death before you make any pronouncements. If another died because of bacteria, that's not your factor anymore in this issue. If you confirm that one dies because of this error, that's what the factor is all about. It's not the one who died because of other reasons. That's not our concern. Yes, it's a concern in another domain. But not in this concern of trying to find a culprit whose action had led to death. So what should have happened is to understand that this issue has a legal, even a constitutional, technical, structural, moral facet. And you need to take each element. Imagine the National Assembly, they call an emergency session. Only to ask the committee to continue with this investigation. And the minister there say that the World Bank will provide a lab. When? What is the procedure? Obviously, if that is seen as an emergency, what should have happened? They should have calculated the cost of that lab, arranged with the World Bank that they will provide the money, have a supplementary allocation, and then have a meeting to approve a supplementary budget for the immediate purchase of what was required to put the laboratory into operation. That's how an efficient government works. You don't wait for others to tell you. And we are right to say that it is trial and error. So essentially, we are coming with issues, with recommendations on a continuous basis. Our portal is going to be very strong. Yesterday we had a very, very successful Central Committee meeting, and we have seen that we must become very articulate in terms of the policies of this party, because we are an alternative government. We don't want anybody to come and tell us that this party will go and protest in the street. You cannot give us 32,000 votes and then come and laugh at us that let us go and face that person with 400 and something thousand and say, you're not governing correctly, get out of there. If you want us to have a voice, give us the votes. If not, we'll speak like sovereign citizens so that we'll be heard. You You've heard about the death penalty. And you see what the Constitution says, that if you had not killed someone, you cannot really be sentenced to death, as some were sentenced to death before. It's a constitutional provision. But if you have killed someone, what has happened is that this government, when it took over power, it presented itself as a new government with respect for life. And it made pronouncement at the highest level of the United Nations, just as the past government decided to create an embargo on the execution of the death penalty, it has also done the same. People were raising issues. But have you heard anything from the government on its position on the death penalty? When it has made a pronouncement externally, but what about to your people? That is what must stop. The people are more important than whatever you do externally. A government must take her people seriously. No matter what errors you make, no matter what your inadequacies are, as long as you speak to the people honestly, you have done what you're capable of doing, because they're the one who put you there. Then they can determine your fate in the future. All of you were here. I'm coming closer to the conclusion. When we took over, and I must say we, because it was a coalition and we were part of it. The fundamental objective was to have a transitional administration. And the recommendation was to create an expert bank where experts in all sectors of the society will be able to congregate, look at the existing policy of the government that we've replaced, and make a recommendation on the way forward. And you could have retained those people to continue to monitor the implementation of any strategy, plan, and policy that may have been derived from that arrangement. But ultimately, what happened? It was derailed. We end up with an executive government, and the program of transitional arrangements, constitutional transitional arrangement, the TRRC, all this did not take the scope that was originally designed. The Constitution ultimately went to the National Assembly and was thrown away at the second reading. When the second reading is a time to debate on the merits, but not on the content. But it was thrown away without discussing the content. Today, society is divided, Christians and Muslims with different views, and the population at large. But in 1995, when the Constitutional Review Commission was established, and there were no political parties, all parties were banned, and I've had a former PPP Secretary General said that Pdois was not banned by the military. I don't know where the person was at that time, but we all know exactly what happened on the 22nd of July. And I will just mention this, Chair, just allow me just to clear this. Fellow Gambians, fellow countrymen, the patriotic armed forces of the Gambia are in full control over the destiny of this great nation, and there has been no bloodshed For the security of this general public, you are to remain in your house. I hereby announce a curfew which will be in place from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. till further notice. The PPP regime is hereby dissolved. All former ministers are to report to the nearest police station for their own protection. The Constitution is suspended. All political parties are banned. You know what happened? We'll be holding sessions on that. A book is being written on that. You will soon get it launched, and then you will know exactly what happened. But this was a party that continued to express itself, rejecting that ban, until the two of us were taken to court on the decree number 4. Even after that, we continued until they had to establish a national consultative committee in December. The life of the coup d'etat was less than 6 months. In December, the whole scenario changed, that we had to negotiate a 2-year transitional program where you had constitutional reform, electoral reform, filled with a lot of reforms. Did the TRC concentrate on this? No. The struggle of the democratic forces? No. It's as if all were sitting down and someone was controlling them, and they were cringing, crouching, and crawling before them because they don't want the real history to be known. That's just like 2016. The same forces in 1994 saved this country, led it to a civilian democratic rule because it had authority of integrity, authority of consistency. That those power that be know that those were not jokers. They were ready to give their life, and not just to give it carelessly. They know that they could work things out in a very profound way, that the outcome will always be in the interest of the people. That is the respect they gain. So in conclusion, this party is alive, is speaking every day, is active every day, is talking to government. And government here listens, another time fail to listen, but it is there to be heard. And it is guiding the destiny of this land from the back. If you wish, it will guide it from the front. And if you do, you will never regret it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You've all heard the presentation, but one important thing came out of the presentation, and which is necessary to be thought about, and Gambians have never thought about it. We had PPP and their program ERP 1985. And that regime existed in this country for 32 years. ERP as a program, it had two successful programs. And the intention was to redress the economy. But it failed to do so. Just kept the economy, the country floating with loans and indebtedness. The military took over because they said there was too much corruption and there was no democracy. And they also were in power for 22 years with a program they called Vision 2020. And that program also was meant to redress the economy and put it on sound footing. it failed. We have a third government which is in place with MDP 2018 upwards. And we have seen that that also has failed to redress the economy as they claim to do. But nobody is questioning this. Because the purpose of an election is meant to solve a problem. I've put a set of people in power to do this. It is now time for me to examine whether that has been done or not done. And we keep on having the same people, the same problems coming, as if we are not thinking. He talks about three things which you need in any human society if you want to have the well-being of that society. And you must have people, since we are human beings, we must be thinkers, we must think. Anything that we do, we must think about it before we do it. So we must be a thinker. And since we have inherited a system which debilitated the economy and our culture and everything for decades, then you need to do something new to change that. So you must become an inventor. And the decades of colonization destroyed.
Why do you have to listen to you? The Right Honorable states something very important. I said it, now I've learned a lot from him. 84, that the internment brought havoc in this country. Why? Because the technocrats, they are foolish and stupid, I would say. Why? I have to tell them, close the public department. What happened to all those young people who have been trained as technocrats, as technicians? What happened? Who came? But there was more than that. Also, we have to blame ourselves individually. We are too greedy. Basic protocol is nonsense. Basic protocol is nonsense. So let's take a you know what to do this country best. They are very important brothers and sisters, cousins, they are fathers and mothers. Corrupt them. Take their mothers and you can't even call and your father and nonsense. We have to stop. If your neighbor's house is on fire, your house is not safe. So socialism is the solution. No question on mine. And I have, God knows, I'm very convinced, come 2026, Pdois will be the government. Inshallah.
Which we look at each of the points, short ones. Number one, the colonial experience. When do we put it aside and start blaming ourselves? I think he had said it rightly, that there was an intention to use our resources for their development. But now we are independent, we are sovereign. They are no longer directly in control of us. So are they still responsible for our underdevelopment? So we must begin now to accept, as he said, self-esteem. Let's accept that we refuse to be sovereign. And because we refuse to be sovereign, that is why we are still under the control of others. So which means that if you refuse to own yourself, others will own you. Then we must stop to blame anybody now and start looking inwards and find out why we are yet to be sovereign and what we ought to do to make our people sovereign. That is really the challenge. Okay, number two, we do not inherit society just as we please. We find it as it is. So when we come to policy, how do we really organize society becomes very important. What Pdois is saying is that we are going to inherit a system where some will be owners of the means of production. You will not say because they are owners of the means of production, they are immoral, and therefore they should not exist. Then society will collapse. So essentially, what is our policy is that we will encourage corporate social responsibility. For people to see that if they are investing in the productive base and benefiting, they must have a policy of uplifting those who are working for them. So for example, somebody who wants to invest in an industry, we will say, yes, invest, but then 20% share can be given to your workers. And from their wages, they can continue to earn more shares from the company so that at the end of each year, there'll be some form of profit sharing. You will make your profit. They will also get back what they should get back from their shares. So we are going to encourage production. We've said it many times. For example, in the Zimbabwe land issue, the white farmers had their plantations and their machinery, but the owners of the land were the traditional Zimbabweans. What do you do in that case? Do you just take the land and give it to them without them having machinery to be able to continue? Or could you organize a shareholding basis where the original owner will have this particular share and the investor will have a particular share and they'll continue to produce so that society will continue to produce the goods that are required for development? In short, when it comes to economics, it is insensitive to race, is insensitive to tribe, is insensitive to many of our peculiarities. It is only sensitive to what the input is, what do you put in production, and how do you distribute what you produce. So essentially what we are saying, at the level of our central bank, there will be a fund which will encourage the state to have joint stock company with any private Gambian who had accumulated wealth in order to invest and exploit an external market to be able to expand the productive base in the Gambia. That is not necessarily inconceivable under a Pdois-controlled government. We wish to create a government where every Gambian will be able to have a home in the policy and ensure that that policy also will not go against the compromise as far as that is concerned. I hope that just tend to mellow Doctor's firm position, which is clear that this is a party that intends to be very consistent in government and very pro-poor, intending to eradicate the poverty of our people. And there will be no compromise on that. But the actual policies will be based on the economic circumstances we are going to face and how we can integrate our policy into those economic circumstances based on the realities of the world of today. I don't know whether I have added any input.
Comment or question? Yes, Nay.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think this is where we need, this party is a door. Door and a door for success. And as the Secretary General said, not a door for making things that this will work and it will best trial and error, but a door for success. I think if you are calling for success, you should know what to do and where. You are killing yourself. You injustice. And we are here to say no. Doors are open for dialogue. And whenever we go, we will not see any door. Where are we heading to? Is that what we are saying is what we mean? We are to work with people. Our doors are here for dialogue. Plans are on the way. And when would plans reach? I think the Gambians should be really tired of hearing these plans are on the way or we are here for dialogue. Our doors are open. everybody is invited, whether you are from with any other party, and that is not so. That is not so. Listen to what is happening. Inviting those that you want to invite, talking to those that you want to talk to, and when you come to the air, you want to throw dust on people's eyes. Are Gambians not tired in this? Look at what is happening. Sometimes people will go from door to door. I need a rice. My rice is finished. I don't have fish money. There is no fish. What can you do for us? What about you Gambians? You are with your voters' cards. And how many votes did you give to Pdois? And still you want Pdois to work. We are saying that we will work on our own. The door is open. Whoever wants to come, you are invited. But P.S., I have a question. This question is, you know social welfare, what is happening in social welfare? You know what is happening in social welfare, and we all know what is happening in social welfare. That disability is just one arena that is being said during the then and past and present government, persons with disabilities. And some from the government, the previous government, were saying that talking with visually is a miracle was seen, that talking with a disability, especially visually impaired, is a problem. And then I think Pdois is the only party that has a manifesto that is showcasing the plight of persons with disabilities. So what do you think we intend to do with them? That because only whenever they talk about persons with disabilities, they always say physically challenged people. It's true, physically challenged people are here, but what about the other types of persons with disabilities? Those people also should be included. And look at what had happened during the National Assembly. I know that it's because of this party that at least a disability was nominated, but look at what had happened. It means that in the National Assembly, everything is going backwards. Because if you look at what we did, the standing orders and everything, some of them are not adhering to this. So I just want you to tell us what strategies we have for persons with disabilities.
You emphasize the essence of a government. A government is an instrument for social protection. That's why a government is a government. We elect so that you provide for all. And if you look at Section 26 of the Constitution, it shows that public services should be provided on an equal basis to all. We have a right to public service. So whether it's education, health, roads, housing. We did not have time to really look at all these issues separately. And we hope that when we call again, you will come so that we look at them separately. The issue of disability is a cross-cutting issue. It means that those experiencing that problem should have education, should have health, should make use of the roads, should make use of the buildings, should make use of all facilities as sovereign citizens. So it means that those you teach as engineers, those you teach as teachers, everybody you are educating, the educational system should have that integrated part where you are taught so that you know that whenever you are planning, when you are producing an equipment, when you are building a building, you have in mind who are there as citizens to be served. It's just changing the mindset of society and changing the way you plan, the way you educate. That's all. So we are precisely going to do that. We have said that at the education level, we are going to create an academy of science, natural, social science, and the humanities. And then we're going to mobilize real thinkers to be at that level so that they can globally look at all our systems and the type of human resources we need, and that will form the basis of the curriculum we're going to create and the learning materials we are going to produce and the teachers we are going to train at that level. So you know very well the relationships you've had with people with Pdois, and you know that's the reality, because it became very easy to teach people with disability to have self-esteem. And examples were just given to them. For example, if you are not sighted, in a dark room, you know, what can you see? So if there is fire in a dark room, what can you do? You're going to struggle to get to the door. How will you get to the door? Are you going to get to the door by looking at the door? No, you're going to get to the door by using your experience. What is in your brain regarding the location of the bed and the location of the door? So, and that's what the person with having sight problem is experiencing. The person must use the brain in order to be able to locate certain places. If you're going across the water, what do? You get on a ferry. Why don't you walk on water? Because you cannot walk on water. So the person also who has ambulatory problem, cannot walk on the ground. So the wheelchair is the ferry. So in short, it's the whole training that you give people that they will enable them to have self-esteem. Can you read the question for me?
Well, there's an online question, which is, how is it possible for the government to sell off the ITC Walik land to the USA contrary to the Act of Parliament? Can this be stopped by Parliament? Does Pdois intend to challenge it in Parliament?
Well, we have said that land allocation in the Banjul Kombo St. Mary area had actually been given to the state at given stages, and that's why even though you lease land, they'll tell you 99 years, meaning that still you have to deal with the minister and the state to continue to be on that land. Reserve land is reserve land. Here the issue is not who is giving the land, the issue is the government giving land. What is the policy of this government on land allocation? That is what they will be demanding from the government. What is the policy on land allocation? Look at where they have the University of the Gambia in the Second Republic, all the way in Farabagant. What is the rationale? And what type of cadastral mapping has been done and determination of the type of allocation should be done for each of the land. The First Republic, the whole, you hear it, kind of industrial estate. That is what it was supposed to be, an industrial estate. Some people came, they were glamour, etc., making shoes. It's just what happened with Jules Bru. Those people, for years, were earning profit and never invested in machinery. They ran the machinery, the company down. In order to invest in another country, to be able to have Gambia as a market. And they came to the National Assembly to claim that the government was overtaxing them, and by that produce. That are true to their words, that will truly plan the space that we have, allocate what should go for buildings, public infrastructure, industrialization, etc., etc., and ensure that what they are designed for are actually used as designed. At the moment, we have advised those who are managing the affairs of the US in the country to go back into the laws of the country, because they are a country that believes in rule of law, make sure that they go into the laws of the country and abide by those laws. And obviously, you will be seeing in the media more and more analysis, because what is important is not only to speculate on the land and its usage, but to know concretely the laws behind it. And certainly we'll be doing that. Is there another?
Yeah, you said somebody's calling that. Just say
hello.
Hello.
Hello. Why don't you take it and then tell?
He's talking to you.
He's answering a question.
Good evening. Good evening. Go ahead.
Yes, can I go ahead?
Yes, certainly.
Am I loud right now?
Everybody is hearing you.
Okay, Honorable Salah, I know you don't want to be called Honorable, but you are Honorable to my.
Yes, I'm listening.
You are Honorable, but even right after that, you are Honorable. We live in love, and we are proud of you. The genuine ones are very, very proud of you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, this is me, Mr. Momoduba.
Okay, how are you?
Right, I'm calling to say thank you for all the service you people are doing. I'm going to you are continuing to do.
Okay.
But my fear right now and my concern is that since some of the people you have already sent a message, and I think the understanding of it developing the message and directing the message and developing the message for the upcoming generation, we are very grateful.
Okay.
What I want to know, what I want to ask about is that whether in the future, like in future elections, would PDI, because what I say is only PDI, which is the most genuine party, it is only PDI, which is the party of substance, that people definitely will listen to, and we have seen the 2016, so the comparison of the coalition with people were the architects. Now, from the look of things, too many parties are coming, the political parties are coming, and some of them have message they are not consistent. Of course, we sometimes need a very strong, formidable coalition. That will also be able to, we'll be able to definitely one government in place that will serve as a matter. What do you have for us in case you people are forced for a genuine coalition from any other political party in the future?
Yes, that's a very good question. We had a Central Committee meeting yesterday, and the issue that we raised is coalition building in the change, and coalition or united front building in the face of system change. Essentially, the people are poor. Very recently, the World Bank states that poverty has increased from 48% to 53%. So it means that abject poverty is increasing. We have said, and we will produce the books that will show you this, that we don't want to participate in any government that will increase the poverty of the people. And we will not stay in government if we are there and see that we are not improving the lives of the people. And we said this when the coup d'etat took place in 1994. We'll be quoting these things in books for the Gambian society to see. that when we failed to participate in the government in 2017, it was not an act of anger, but because we believe that a transition was possible and that in the National Assembly we'll be able to promote the constitutional changes and all the other changes that the country would need, because there is where the law is made. What you have asked is a simple question: will we participate in coalition building? Well, we are asking all Gambians, and I believe you know that Mr. Alaji Kurang, Dr. Bai Biram Ibrahim Jan. Should I use Bai Biram or Ibrahim? I was hesitating. So people's names are treasures to them, so guide me. They have been very prominent as people seeking political office at the highest level. So if they come and join Pdois, after we have gone together everywhere, nook and cranny of this country, we went everywhere together, everywhere. And they saw the people on the ground, those who claim that Pdois does not have grassroots base and support. We never slept in a hotel or any form of room. We slept everywhere we went, in a house, a resident in the areas, welcomed by the people. And some talked about old days. So we are convinced that they are en route to system change. And we are ready to work with anybody who is ready. So anybody who wishes to come to us and we debate issues like this in the open, anytime again, we are going to form United Front with anybody. It is for system change, and we are going to have fora like this. We will discuss item by item, the type of economy, etc., etc. And those who agree with the real solutions, we are ready to move together to change the country for the benefit of our people.
There's another online question. The Chinese fishing contracts been very exploitative to the ordinary citizens. What does Pdois intend to do to remedy this situation?
Well, any government that is worth the salt, that is fit for purpose, must start by reviewing the policy, the strategic plans, the programs, the projects that it inherits immediately after taking office and prior to that in its manifesto. We have said that we will guard the waters of this land jealously. The territorial waters of 12 nautical miles, contiguous zone of 24 nautical miles, the economic zone of 200 nautical miles, we will guard jealously. And we will ensure that we will convince the Chinese government that we are sound on economics and that we all know what led to the development of China, and will not allow Gambia to be used for the development of others. But in partnership, we can ensure that we develop. So there will be no contract that will not be examined, and there is, at the moment, we've not seen any viable contract that the government has either with the Chinese or the European Union or with any other country, because we do not have any policy of ensuring that at least they provide us with fishing vessels, train our people so that we continue to exploit our waters, even if we have to give leeway to some of them to fish on our waters. The only viable contract is what enables us to take charge of our fishing, and they serve as supplement, not as the basis of the exploitation of our sea.
Can you ask me?
Yes, there are 4 questions from the floor.
No, but there's somebody on the line. Can you?
So all the contracts will be reviewed.
Hello?
Yes, hello.
You don't need that.
Yes, hello?
Hello, yes.
Yes, how are you?
Very well.
I'm back again.
No.
He's back again.
I'm back again.
Yes.
Back again.
Yes, hello, Honorable Chala.
I'm listening very carefully.
Honorable Chala.
I'm listening to you very carefully.
Yes, what I want to tell you is that the Gambia has achieved a lot, but we also have spent overwhelmingly. Because if you consider our population, which is less than a 2 million population, we lack everything on this planet, and so we all genuine citizens. And you people, I will definitely give you a grace on the back and an elbow on the back to say you guys have liberated the Gambia and you are continuing to liberate the Gambia. The fact that you came into being, in fact, dating back 1984, you came continue to being also brought in the constitutional electoral change that have passed the ability to win the food. So, definitely, what I want to understand, what I would like to have a country, let us love our country, let us like our country, we have nowhere to go, but we have Gambia. But why Gambia is at the back? Why Gambia is at the back? We can address it, we can diagnose it, and we can examine it. It is us who are responsible. Imagine when 2016, 2017, we succeeded in the power. What happened is, people stole the show. People stole the show to take credit. You see, and this is why the people are very ungrateful. So very few individuals say, you know, we don't think this change. We have to clarify the parliament and we have to clarify the other. So let the people be educated. Let PDI expand. Maybe like radio stations across the country where they can teach the ordinary people that are responsible for their
Thank you. Thank you very much. That is the root. We must grow sovereign citizens. That is going to be the slogan. Grow sovereign citizens. Before the next election, there will be no fool in our motherland. Every citizen will become sovereign. That is our objective. And you are there, we are there, collectively we will achieve it. We are now more sure than ever and more rewarded. And what you have reaffirmed shows that we are moving forward.
Yeah, I have 4 questions. I don't know whether I can just keep the whole.
Yes, you may.
One is coming from Wellingara. He's asking why Pdois is holding government accountable for the death of the 70 children instead of the original country where the drug come from, China. In the press conference, we didn't hear where the drugs came from. That's China. In your statement. India, sorry. But you write China, maybe. China. He said, why are you not holding China instead of the government accountable for the death of the 70 children instead of the original country? The other question is asking, that's from Saul Badi. He said, how does Pdois plan to address the issue of over a million youths of our country who are either grossly uneducated, lack of skills for employment, or have a college certificate geared towards the economic realities of our country? What is Pdois plan to address this issue? And Modu Sering is asking, will Pdois bring an issue paper of land and marine border demarcation in this country, because we are looking for a crisis in this area?
Yes, last question. If you look at the manifesto, that is in fact the primary agenda. Senegal and Gambia needs to sit down to demarcate the border on the basis of what has been agreed by the OAU, that the colonial borders will serve as the borders of independent African states. It is very clear that on the 10th of August, 1889, the British and the French did meet to define what Gambia is, what Senegal is, but clearly that demarcation is not put in proper perspective by the First Republic, Second Republic, and now the current government. We, of course, had said in our manifesto that if we were actually elected, we would sit down with the Senegalese government, go back into those historical records, and properly demarcate the borders. That is a primary consideration. And any future Doi government will give that primary consideration. Number two is the issue of employment of young people. We have said it in our manifesto, that we will introduce a national service where every person who finishes school, or at this moment not in school, will select a profession of one's choice, and then the training will start by those who can give those mentoring as a form of national service. And we will ensure that we create at the level of the central bank a part of the sovereign wealth fund that will provide loans to those who gain skills and want to employ themselves into productive enterprise, so that they will have the resources. If they need material, they'll have the materials to be able to carry out those services. That is our program. Our program is for the youth, youth employment, that in any area of national life, but we also will build up a chain. For example, we have said that in terms of rice production, you will give funds to some to engage in rice production and pay back without interest, but you will also give some the resources to be able to do in processing of the rice without any interest, and others to market it. If you look at the chain, Gambians will consume the rice. So that's a wide market. And how many people will be engaged in that chain? So we are saying we'll create such chains to quickly employ everybody who's employable, and it will be sustainable because the services will in fact lead to what we call import substitution, because we will look at the goods that we import, mostly onions, etc., processing of yogurt, whatever is being processed. We'll make sure that we focus on those goods, and that will lead to import substitution, and that will expand the economy. That's how we intend to handle youth unemployment. Lastly is the issue of the drugs. Well, as you said, I'm not sure the information we had is about China. The information, and we don't know whether it's the country that really matters in this case. What we've had, the company is from India. But it is a matter that is still on the national and international investigation. And we are simply pushing the government to put the proper legal, technical, structural, and moral base in place to be able to handle the problem. We've looked at the Act, and we've seen the inadequacy of the Act. You can see that it was promulgated in 2014, where you have the 1997 Constitution. But if you look at the appointment, is done by the minister instead of what is there in Section 175 of the Constitution. So it means that those who made the law, in fact, had not really properly put themselves in what is required to be that type of lawmaker who will make a law that will not contradict some portion of the Constitution. We have seen the issue of imports, that they will require somebody who is a pharmacist to be at least associated with the importers. So you need to strengthen those laws so that a person who wants to invest in pharmaceuticals will know that I can go and register a company to invest, but then the conditionality of what will get that application approved will be clearly stipulated, so that the pharmacies, pharmacy assistants, the size, etc., the location, all this will be properly distinguished, and that the government will have conditions where the origins of drugs will require certification, because government must be responsible before they allow products to leave their territory. That's why we talk about quality, which means that there must be, especially with drugs, with WHO, they can move to a level where this will be enforced, that before drugs leave a particular country, there must be a certification by the national government, which is the case, and we must ensure that that happens, and that is reviewed by the country where the drug is coming to ensure that drugs are available, that you do not create shortages, but at the same time have quality drugs, which means that all those who have imported drugs should be called upon to produce their certificates to show that really the origin had certified the quality of the drugs. That should be a good starting point. And then if government subsequently want to do further testing, it should do so, whilst maybe one will continue with one's operation. But if you see that no certification was done, those should be impounded and subjected to test before any distribution of such drugs. All these are ways and means of dealing with the problem. But essentially, we must train more pharmacists. We must create, you look at the institution, University of the Gambia, you have public health, you have this, but the building of those who are pharmacists should become very important in this regard. So you create laws, you should see all the requirements of the law. If you need pharmacists, then you must train them. And you must put that as part of the curriculum at the university. This is what we are talking about. So we are going to hold account those people who sent the drugs and those who allowed the drugs to come in if it was done illegally. That is the essence. And government is accountable when it comes to proving that the death was caused by actually the serum. So that if the government fails to establish, the government is accountable. And we have said that loud and clear, that they should have pathologists with the qualification. If not, they should get one from the WHO support in order to be able to actually attest the cause of death. Every death has a cause.
Yes, thank you. I have a question.
What do they have to say to some ignorant Gambian people who will say you have the best program, you have the best policy, you have the most honest leadership, you have been consistent forever, but you will not win the election?
Yes, and the fact I don't think they are ignorant. It's deliberate. Some of them really believe that that is a way to acknowledge the good that Pdois is doing, but they don't support Pdois. So it's a nice way of saying, I don't support the party, which is a prerogative. The essence here is that we see the consequences. Do we want Gambia to continue to be what it is? Look at the rent. Look at the young people coming out of school. Look at the girls struggling to be somebody, to have a husband, to have a family. How many young people can really have families now? Let's be honest with each other. You can be a preacher, preach all you want. But how many young people can marry and maintain a home? We are having a social crisis. And many young children are coming out of broken families. Or not families, single families. What is their future? So there is real hardship. If we wish, we ignore it, but that is the reality. And there must be a solution, and there can be no solution without policies and their implementation. Unfortunately, you cannot build a country out of wishes. It must be concrete policies implemented by concrete people in order to have concrete results. So we don't see any way out. Maybe those people should rethink.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
My question is, what does I have is that is where this country is level of it. People are now regretting the reason why they have
Yes, people are regretting in some way about security. The number of young people I see in police stations, in the First Republic, Second Republic, Third Republic, with police officers helpless. See them, they have pickpocket, have taken this, is cannabis there, so they have taken somebody's thing there. Well, wherever you don't have a good educational system that is all inclusive, and job after your training, you are going to have out-of-school children, you are going to have delinquency. I was in social welfare in the First Republic. I remember one of my clients, and I will use this occasion, they were very, very friendly to me. And I used to go to the police station and bail them sometimes when they're in trouble. I remember one of them jumped bail. And I told the police, don't worry, I don't want people to use me and then break the law and then disappear. So I'll go and search for him. I'll be very quick in it. So I asked his friend, you know where the nursing school of nursing is? At that time, it was a Robin Hood forest. No building, and it was thick. Yes. So the friend told me that it was just like a vine that you go in. It's like you're following some wolf or something at the hideout. So I went in there and then found him sleeping. So when I touched him and he woke up, it's like he saw God. What are you doing here? I said, the police are running after me, and that's why I'm running after you. He said, what, after you? So then he led me and said, let's go to the police station. And as we go into the market, this guy could have been the president of the Gambia. I will not mention his name. He was calling his, no alcohol. So you see, the situation has been a chain since then, where if I take something, I know where to sell it. So this thing you're talking about is a wide chain, a chain of poverty that one has to sociologically analyze to understand your society. What I'm saying is your society yesterday, today, and day before yesterday has been moving to that trend. It is increasing population. over 400,000 children coming out of our school systems, 500,000 in fact, every 12 years. You can imagine what we are facing. So that time bomb must be addressed. And it's not an only security situation. It is really a socio-economic and security situation. We must address it at a larger level. And that's what Pdois intends to do by ensuring that all these young people are engaged in national service, where you can culture them, nurture them, and our police force will be transformed. It will not just be a force of coercion. It will be a force that will work with the communities in order to ensure that our children are safe. I don't know whether I've answered your question, but if you read our manifesto, that is what is there. Alaikum salam.
There are some of them can speak Wolof and some of them can speak Mandinka. But this time around, I'm going to speak Wolof. Because I'm going to speak English, but this time I'm going to speak Wolof, so that at least those out there will understand. Okay, Honorable Sir, I'm very question for one of your life. Monica, Pdois as a party, Gambia live in Forest. Manamale talk see Boro you have a digger no faneka. Now I digger you have let's say at least 70% you have educated. But Somalian way Pdois, women have to Monica. Pdois have the best program and policies. But young Gambians really less. So man, I'm not question Monica. And our Pdois they want to build and rebrand the way we do our politics for Gambian new voter. Because already new Gambians trust me. That's the fact. Call like a Pdois, you have the best program and policy. 2021-22 election passing. Pdois is the only political party who has for Gambia but Gambia dead. Dunga benen political party. The fine you sell program of policy. The people they have made conscious. But now the issue is look at guys who be joking, do you let Sani? So Lolo man is more on Helat, Monica, like Honorable Monica. Are we going to rebuild a rebrand new politics? Pour Gambians si mu ñu jox suñu bopp o dañoo continuer ñu ñoo demee ba léegi.
waaw xam nga ñaari wax nga ne ñëpp ne lii mooy dëgg. Ah soo buggee génn ci dëgg googu de foog nga dugg ci leneen lu dul dëgg. waaw bon nag dëgg googu naka la ñoo fexee ba mu sax ba dugg ci noppi nit ñi ba gëm ko xam nga dëgg dafa am ñetti bunt. benn bi dafa dugg ci nopp su ko xel jëlul dafa génn ci beneen nopp. ñaareelu bunt bi mooy bu mu duggee ci nopp bi xel itam jël ko. ñetti jafe-jafe benn jafe-jafe bi mooy wax jim doon wax pour mu dugg ci noppa foofu la jafe-jafe bi njëkk a dooree bañ dooree ndax dafa amoon ñoo xam ne bugguñu pour nit ñi dégg ko dañ la wax ne bul dem ci meeting yi doy ñii li ñoo wax ñii ay kenn xamul li ñoo wax boroom xam-xam yi sax ne li ñoo wax àndut ak waa Gambie ñoom mel ni dinañ la fexe ba xajamal sa xel ba nga xam ne da ngaa ne jarul sax déglu leen boobu mooy woon problème bi jiitu waane xeex nañ di xeex ba problème boobu génne ba nit ñi di déglu ba li nga wax noonu foofu lañ toll xel mun koo jël ne lii dëgg la waaw ñetteeli problème bi nag foofu moom lañ solvagul mooy ndax ni nga nangu waane xeex nañ di xeex ba problème boobu génne ba nit ñi di déglu ba li nga wax noonu foofu lañ toll xel mun koo jël ne lii dëgg la waaw ñetteeli problème bi nag foofu moom lañ solvagul mooy ndax ni nga nangu dëgg googu ba mu jaral la nga ànd ak moom liggéey ndax ñi cee liggéey mooy li antifaatu wax rek dañu leen même soo leen sànnilee tam duñ gañe naa ñëpp xam nañ ne gis nga bés bu nekk su 100 people ñëwee ci yow nga jox leen 100 dalasi ñaata dalasi la ci bés bi 1000 dalasi bés bu nekk rek 10 people su ñëwee ci yow nga jox leen 100 dalasi loolu 1000 dalasi la waaye su fekkee ne 100 people la das 10,000 dalasi ñett fukki fan das 300,000 dalasi ban politicien moo nekk ci Gambia koo xam ne bés bu nekk dina jël 100 dalasi di ko jox 100 people di génne 300,000 dalasi weer wu nekk. ndax loolu am na loolu amut li ci des yëpp waxi naxaate la politiciens yi joxe wuñ dara dañoo jël di denc am nag nit ñu tuuti ñoo xam ne dinañ leen baaxee ñooñu nag ñooy dem mel ni yow tam soo àndeek ñoom di nga am ca loolu doo ko musa am mu mel ni loolu lañ war a ràññee te doy nag yàgg na fi muy bureau bi xam ngeen ñaata nit ñoo fi ñëw di jooy seen laan problème wala school fii si xale façon problème bu nekk amul problème bu ñu jànkoontewul solve ko ñii seen dayomeen yu réer ñii seen doom yi ñu tëj leen kaso ñu soxla pour ku leen dimbale façon bu nekk ba doy sosoog léegi ay nursing school ak nursery school ak lu nekk soo doon seetee alal doy li nga xam ne moom la defal doomi Gambie kenn mënu koo taawil bon nag ci gàttal dañ war a continuer rek di eete ba nit ki doon ki mu doon ndax wax nañ ko du benn yoon du ñaari yoon nit ki su xamul ki mu doon du xam li mu moom su xamul li mu moom keneen moomale ko boppam moom mu ñàkk ko kooku nekk ci àjjana ci kaw suuf moom mu nekk ci jaxanama ci kaw suuf nga juddu ci coono màggee ci coono màggee ci coono dee ci coono ndax loolu lañ bëgg di continuer des na ci nit ñi. Yes, we've said in terms of corruption that if you look at legislation, in many instances, the executive is never scrutinized. It's always others who are scrutinized. Because you know that executives are protected under constitutions. Now, what is important for us to realize is that corruption must be addressed structurally and legally. Structurally, how? Well, let's take it and then answer. Go ahead. 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 Go ahead with your question.
Good evening, Honorable Tala. This is Yahya Jammeh calling from London.
Yes.
My question is around election malpractice.
Yes,
Go ahead.
I think one of the painful situations in the Gambia is the reality that you have a sitting government which will be using the resources of the people to induce and drive the people to vote for them, so that they return to power and to continue to do the resources of the people. My question is, what is Pdois' strategy to combat electoral practices, in addition to the issue of raising the awareness of the people?
Well, that is precisely the objective now. We've said that electoral malpractices are stipulated under law, and they are offenses under the Elections Act. We will be educating the population on the act, the offenses, and the malpractices that no one should engage in. That is really the next agenda for the next election. We would wish that all those political parties and citizens who wish to come together to work to educate people on the electoral malpractices, all the offenses, with the view to re-educate the Gambian people to know that many practices that they think is normal in politics is actually an offense under Gambian law. That is a work that we are yet to fully shoulder, and we will definitely shoulder it in the coming year and there onwards. That is the future of Gambian politics. We've said we must grow sovereign citizens. That is the way to grow sovereign citizens, to help them to understand that they should not subject themselves to any intimidation, inducement, or any form of patronage. That is the verdict of the law, and it's the dictate of the law, so it should be respected and upheld. Now, the issue of corruption, we've said, should be dealt with both legally and structurally. For structurally, we must ensure that we build sovereign national wealth to enable our people to earn what a human being should earn to be able to live a decent life. We will ensure that in investing in projects, in villages, there will be village development committees who will know what is supposed to be done, and everything will be done under their supervision. So structurally, you will involve the people in what is called social auditing. That whatever, for example, drugs that emanates from the lab that produces it for the government, you will have the government seal on the packages. So wherever it goes, everybody will know that this is the government. So to ensure that the people are in control is not very difficult, as long as you are a government that wants to be accountable. And those are the means through which we will definitely nip corruption in the bud. And the legal dimension is there, the laws will be there to follow the matter. Yes, sir.
Assalamu alaikum bolomi. Bala ma laajte suma question bi dama bëgg a jégal nit ñi rek ne ñaari jamono ne lekk ci neen du nax béy waaye lekk fu mu naxee béy ñu teg paaka sa tuta so loolu lañ ci bàyyi xel bu baax a baax. Okay, I have a question, and the question is, whenever you talk to people, they tend to associate government and not elected political parties, meaning that they will tell you what have done by for this country. And they also, I don't know, for some reason, never blow their own trumpet. I know for a fact that they have done a lot of things for this country. For example, we're talking about empowering the farmers. I know for a fact that they have one time by donkeys given to the farmers and for those things. Nyako School have taught thousands of people. Some of them are even PhD holders now. Other projects. So we want to know what Pdois have done, and try not to be shy.
Thank you very much. Pdois can explain all the things it has done, but it has done it as national service and duty. That is the difference. And that's why it does not blow its trumpet, because it is a service. And when you render a service, you do not expect to blow your own trumpet. But if it is patronage, you will blow your own trumpet because you are expecting to gain something from it. I believe that is the difference. So under the right circumstances, in the right places, we'll be able to explain, to inspire our activists so that they can do the same thing. Go to night schools, teach people in night schools, do many community services for people, run small-scale microfinance. All these are issues that could be done, but they are not done on the basis of capturing people's votes. They are done on the basis of rendering service, that Pdois activists must be service providers. I don't know whether that is sufficient to answer the question, but we are sure that as we move on, we will have such programs and such opportunities to guide people into the activities that Pdois has, still is engaged in. So, we come to the close. Yes. Go ahead. Bismillah.
So saya tinggal binada isi pasal nola le, memang kau pakai because wadu ningan la bunda pengkontre, alga molda. So kau minau mosi pasal la, doi kolek. Lapna kau boleh.
Iko for ibi mo jumale sotola.
Kau sadar lagi apa kau yang benya. Yang ningan la.
Yalo. Nyaton kaya manke mo clintat kafole tam mo killing se lono ka diam bawo bete diamu non mo bete tano la National Assembly mo bete ne keno la president nimbe kule meya lonko ni do ko be kering jamale ba kekan foye dol tombong ye bulandi nyato pour wol si kumo yitande molla wo mu do ko lete dorom dunole mu me ya lonko e mo sa sambano mo si jikki ko ni kafo be keri molbe kafo kono ibe ku karankanne hani ni man kuma e ni wato sita pour yelo dulata ibe la lo dulata woto nyimu lo dulalete dorom mo si mentano ndikita ko banko te fola wo mo sifala me ya lonko isi la lodula ta ke la banko kanu ke la banko dingol kanu ka pare pour ka bata pour ela mole bo bata ko ni banko fota wo mo sifala doron amunta ko dunya wulitale fol be bant e men ye dunya lo wole mo wati ko dolbe je e ke nyina e fangola e ka ko di e nafulola e kodi fangola pour mun kamma pour ila banko eta nyaato ila banko dingol fanan yebo yankankatol kon ngalon Gambia fanante fola wo mo sifala bari ni wolloto fanan nyente bampula nge makoy pour ila kango si jangaya ila dodula si bambang pour memmu ila hammoti wo fanan si soto anyanta soto la nyam abe wo nyam.
Question or comment? Yes? Yes,
all right, just the gentleman, I just want to follow up on what the gentleman talked about earlier. For Pdois to blow their trumpet, what have they done? That is the Gambian politics. We heard that people talk about what Pdois have done. But I want to say here what Pdois have done. Me personally, in my view, I was introduced to Pdois by my father, who never went to school.
he doesn't know how to write his name. He told me one thing, though is one political party that will lead the Gambia to prosperity. And my question to him, how did you know that? He said, that is why I sent you to school to think. Don't believe what I said. Go investigate what I'm telling you. Do your own investigation, and you make the free choice for yourself. And I've been doing that. I've come to the conclusion that DOI is the only political party. Not only I believe they can carry on, I have studied your policy in regard to agriculture, not believing what you say, but going after what you have told me, that this is the way to prosperity. How can we have farmers? An example, Ivory Coast, they did that through the Banque Nationale de l'Agriculture. There are a lot of Gambians that are working in Divo, Korogo, and other areas under farmers. That is due to the productive sector. And we all know Cote d'Ivoire's position in Africa in terms of production of coffee and cocoa. Banque Nationale de l'Agriculture, this is not someone telling me. I personally, after when having a discussion with my father sent me to many countries in Africa. And I've seen it. I know names, Gambians, who we are employed by Ivoirians too. I will not say the same system, but similar. They were supported by the Banque Nationale de l'Agriculture. End of the year, when they sell their produce, in January, they will pay back to the bank. And I know people who works in those banks in Divo. So what is the problem? Our people say we don't understand DOI. What part? My question to Gambians, what part of DOI message you don't understand? I have the solution to take you out of poverty. Let's have a discussion. You're talking about Mano de Facer. That is the system that is not working. So we have a system clearly in our face that is not working. We complain, we're not listening to each other the way forward. Though he's talking about how to support your father and your mother in the farm. My grandfather was a farmer. I understand clearly what he's saying. I'm a blacksmith. I am proud of being a blacksmith. Your policy will have helped my grandfather to be an engineer in this country to produce machinery. My grandfather died poor because of the failed policies. We have so-called technocrats that never saw my grandfather in their technocrat mind. My grandfather in Bajakunda, one of our grandfathers used to produce pistols. Yes. Where was our leaders to support those innovative ideas? A failed system that I was born in, grew up in the failed system, inherit poverty. And I went overseas to struggle because of what the leaders have done before I was born. They never planned the country post-independence. And what DOI is saying, 400,000 students will be graduating from our system. What policy do we have for our children? What policy do we have? We have to prepare. We are not preparing. And you say you don't understand DOI, you are poor. You say you don't understand DOI, Mano de Facer. I heard that today. That is the system. It's not working. We need to change and have a sensible policy in place. One, how to support the farmers to be productive. We have the ocean, people say Chalo de Facer. When DOI speak, you say you don't understand. What part of that you don't understand? To invest in the fishery industry. Sierra Leone did that in the 80s with Jamil Saidu Muhammad leading that industry. By 6 o'clock in the morning, every district have delivery. That is what DOI is saying. Let's put fishing vessels out there to produce, to supply the market. Supply and demand. Are we meeting the supply and demand in our society? You have shortage. We're not creating jobs for our youth. Our youth are idling. What plan do we have? DOI have that? I'm saying to all Gambians, let us stop fooling ourselves. I don't understand DOI. It's a myth. We're just not willing to change our circumstances. If we are serious, it's democracy. Give them a chance. If they don't deliver, move on to the next one. Thank you very much for your time.
have said it all.
So that's okay?
Well, he said, this is like a question he has answered before anyway. Many people have the belief that Pdois is all about Halifa Sallah and Sidi Ajata. We want to see young people in the leadership. How do you help us, the young people, to take part in the leading process?
It is important to distinguish two things. There is state leadership and there is party leadership. Being someone in a party does not mean that you are going to be the minister in a state or a president in a state or councillor. Because as far as Pdois is concerned, when it is time to select councillors as candidates, when it's time to select candidates to be councillors, mayors, chairpersons, National Assembly members, it is the community of Pdois supporters who meet and select whoever they want. Those people do not necessarily have to be in the party leadership. So Pdois is preparing people for national leadership, and it could be you. But for you to be Pdois National Assembly member, councillor, president, well, work for it. Love your country, love your people, get up and be counted. Don't expect that Uncle Sidia will come and mobilize you and take you through to serve your country, or can prevent you from serving your country. That's a misconception. Now, for the party, it has workers. When he said leaders, they are nothing but civil servants of the party. The civil servants of the party are people who are ready to work day and night to get the party moving, to serve the party. If you are ready, come. Don't wait for tomorrow, come right now. And you will join in and be part of those who are the civil servants of Pdois, ready to work day and night to ensure that the party prepares the people for citizenship. They are aware. That's what Uncle Side is doing. What are we doing? What is this leadership giving Uncle Side or Halifa Sallah? Is it a mansion?
No.
It's just work. The work is what? To help prepare your minds to be sovereign citizens, to articulate what you should know and pass it on to you. So it is important for you to prepare yourself for the service. And anytime you are ready, you are called upon to take your stand, and you can assume any responsibility in Pdois that you so desire. But be ready to serve and be committed to service. That's all. So there is no other qualification you need, but be ready to serve and come and join us and serve, and you can reach any position in Pdois. We'll be glad to surrender all those positions as quickly as possible to you, so that you too, 24 hours. Sometimes I call Samsar 2 o'clock in the morning, and he is still functioning. I said, wow. But here and there, you see him dozing somewhere. You say, what's wrong with this man? But the man does not sleep. It's 24 hours work. So in that sense, it is just service and duty that will enable you to assume any responsibility in Pdois, and we'll be glad to see your face as quickly as possible when you are ready to take the stand and take the move.
We are going to part with Eyeafrica at 5:30, and if you still have questions and comments to make, we'll continue with Kemese. But Eyeafrica is going to leave by 5:30, and we have barely, let's say 6 minutes more to 5:30. And Gambia. Okay.
The person is asking when is Pdois going to release its manuscript of what happens with the NAC coalition 2016 and which led to the impasse of the 2016 impasse. When are you going to release the manuscript with regards No, NAC coalition and 2016 coalition, which led to the impasse. What actually transpired? They want to hear from you. Whether Pdois is trying to develop the document. For historical records.
Yes, we are now writing, and we hope you are ready to read. We are moving from talking to also writing. In fact, I'm convinced that maybe 3 things would soon be there in the public space. And one of them would be our trial. We call it the verdict of historical justice. Our trial was very interesting, and I'm sure that will be in publication sooner or later, but sooner rather than later. There is also the abortion of the Constitution of the Third Republic. You can see that now they have prepared a bill in order to bring a draft constitution or a bill for promulgation at the National Assembly. All of you followed the debate. From the very instance, we told them that 1995, when the CRC was established for the 1997 Constitution, and 2017 were not the same. Because 1995, the 1970 Constitution was suspended. And therefore, the drafters of the Constitution had a free hand in consultation and coming up with a draft, and eventually sending the draft to a referendum. But 2017, we had and still have a constitution which enabled us to remove the incumbent. So if you have to change that constitution, you have to rely on Section 226, the provision of the constitution, to change it. And it has 2 provisions, entering clauses through referendum and the other clauses through the National Assembly. So it was proposed to them, bring what could be changed by the National Assembly for them to be changed en bulk. And then what needs to go for referendum, we take them. And if that was done, you put them together, you still have a constitution. And of course, what could have gone into a referendum, all the provisions could have been there to make it easier to amend or promulgate constitution. But it did not take that way. We also did not use that politically when they had the impossibility of continuing with the constitution that was brought by the CRC. we decided to help them to promulgate that constitution. And when it was sent at the second reading to Coma, we tried as much as possible to be the doctors who will bring it alive again, but the National Assembly Speaker did not really cooperate at that time, and it did not survive. Then they called us to Nigeria, they brought the president of Nigeria. We told them, you are just wasting the time of this man, because there was nothing that could be done to touch that constitution and bring it back to the National Assembly. Only the National Assembly could do that. We were ignored, but ultimately what has happened? We told them, you must go back and bring another constitution, which is not what has gone into coma, and then look at that again through the same constitutional process of 3 months publication, 10 days after the first publication, then to bring it to the National Assembly for consideration. Apparently they're taking that path, so we will definitely be writing a book on that, the abortion of the Constitution, to see what happened in 1997, etc. So those books are in the making. And of course the 2016 impasse, that is a book of its own. It will ultimately be launched. So let's say that we have 4 books in a series that are in the pipeline, and this is how we intend to share our view of realities of Gambian politics. We hope you will read to get all the knowledge that is necessary and use it to be able to shape a new Gambian who can build a new Gambian.